Hi, I'm Greg Zeschuk from Blind Enthusiasm Brewing Company, here today with the release report for Fruitful Pursuits Quince 2023. Once again, I am joined by Doug Checknita, head brewer and blender at the brewery, and we are talking about the second incarnation of a delicious quince beer. Um, this is the second one.
This is the second one.
What's different?
So with quince is a very unique fruit, not just in its flavor profile, but also that it doesn't ripen on the tree. So after it's harvested, we actually have to ripen the fruit. So with this iteration, we changed our ripening method. We let it ripen a little more, so it would have a little bit more like deep fruity character, a little bit more of the like richness that quince has to offer.
Nice. And I remember, how do we process these? Did we chop them? Did we crush them? Did we kick them? What happened?
Yeah, so these first 2 years, we cut every single quince by hand, 800 kilos, all with knife and a cutting board. And
And they're hard to cut, I recall.
yes, they're big, they're dense. Everyone ends up with like nice blisters on their hands.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll make quince again, but we're not going to tell you what we're going to do with them. It's a secret for the future. Let's get into this beer. It is delicious. Those of you that know us and have had the Quince 2022 will realize that, I mean, it's a really remarkable beer and one of our actual favorite fruit beers that we make. 2022 and 2023. Now, 2023, this is beautiful. What color? Tell us about this color, Doug, and then the aroma.
Yeah, so a little bit lighter in color than our typical beer, a bright gold. The quince takes the color down a tad. But it has some really nice ripe quince notes, intense punchy floral character, the classic kind of like honey notes to it, a little bit of that like stem vegetal skin character that you get from palm fruits.
And I think that one of the things about quince as well that's really interesting is until you've had them or even had this beer, you don't know what they're like. And I think when we have this beer, the quince beers are an incredible expression of the fruit itself. So, if you've never had a quince, have your first quince in our beer. Flavor as well, the quince itself is actually kind of matches a little bit of the aroma typically.
It carries on with those like really juicy, ripe quince flavors. The honey, the floral. I feel in the flavor, and especially with like the acidity of the beer, you're getting like some kind of like calamansi citrus, some melon character. The floral comes out a little more, and some spice character that you don't really get in the aroma comes through in the flavor. And a lot of that is amplified through that ripening that we were chatting about earlier.
Yeah, because I feel this 23 is kind of a little richer than the 22. Like
Yeah,
it's
a
got
little more rich, a little more full.
Yeah, and I mean, acidity level in this, like it's actually like all of our beers very well balanced. How would you characterize the acidity?
Yeah, like a nice balanced medium acidity, but it's a very juicy acidity, very coating, very similar to if you were eating like a ripe apple or pear, something like that.
And then the other thing that's really interesting about this beer, like again, 22 and 23 are similar in this. The texture, the mouthfeel is really remarkable. You got this kind of foamy character, like that's in the fruit. If you bite a quince, it almost is intensely drying. There's some tannins there. Do you want to talk a bit about what's going on in the texture?
Yeah, so one of the more tannin heavy palm fruits in quince. So that's what's going to give you that like really fuzzy tannic texture that you get that, like you said, really is similar to what you get when you're eating one, uh, but just balanced out by the beer and the acidity. And then going into like carbonation and everything, we have like that medium high carbonation, and
Yeah.
the tannins and the texture of the fruit really balance out that.
It's also kind of juicy in the finish too. It's got like this juiciness. This
Oh,
like, which
absolutely.
I mean, if you've bitten a quince, it's not juicy. It's very
No.
very drying. So this is actually quince enhanced.
Yeah,
So-
well, quince are typically used for cooking. You have to cook them to
Yeah.
make them to taste good. That there's so much acidity and so much tannin in them. Without the cooking, they don't really like balance out. And fermenting them in the beer kind of acts as that cooking process.
Right.
So that's what's gonna balance it out, round it out, make it nice and juicy.
And Doug, quince doesn't grow on trees. Well, actually, it does grow on trees. But where do we get it? Where do we get this quince? It's such a rare fruit to get.
So we were introduced to this amazing fruit by Steve and Dan's Fresh BC Fruit, who are our regular growers and suppliers for a lot of our fruit, they actually were the ones that convinced us to do this fruit originally.
We were reluctant. No, I wouldn't say reluctant. We weren't sure. Like quince, we're like quince. That's a weird one. Like quince.
It's not very common, so I didn't know a lot about it. But a couple of other people had suggested it as well, and once Steve and Dan's were so passionately wanting it to be in our beers, and at that point they had tried a lot of our beers and really understood that it would go well with it. We took their advice, and that's
and hats off to them because they were dead on. This is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
and like you said, this is one of my favorite fruit beers, if not my favorite fruit beer that we brew.
Amazing. Cool. Well, this is actually tasting delicious. Fruitful Pursuits Quince 2023. We hope you like it.